What's up? Hey, how are we doing? Welcome to another edition of XFeed. Couple of housekeeping things to begin, which I know that sometimes only have you for 10 seconds, so stick with me. If you were at the card show on the weekend and you happen to are popping back by the channel to see the footage from that, I'm going to get to some of that tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have something uploaded on that front. And yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, I I went to a card show yesterday, and then on the way back, it was the absolute worst driving conditions ever. Now, thankfully, I was only in it for about 15 minutes, but holy smokes, what an unreal snowstorm. Hopefully, you and everyone else in your families and friends are okay. So today, we are going through the craziness regarding the Rutgers University One Piece promotional card. If you haven't seen that, we got police kicking people out. We have somebody that apparently made $150,000. We're going to look at a reminiscence or a nostalgia piece. If you grew up in the rock band, Guitar Hero area, when everybody's looking at these different collectibles, we're going to give you kind of a different one to give you a sense of joy. We're looking at the Ninja Creamy as well, which apparently is this great ice cream. I keep seeing it on my timeline every single day, so this is my public service announcement for anybody that might be somewhat local that has one of these machines. Please to God, let me try this because I am very much interested in doing so. We're also looking at an NBA player that did a Pokemon segment at a game. And everything around trading cards is just going bonkers. Okay, that was 1:33 and way longer than I expected, but hopefully you guys are still here. One Piece night at Rutgers University, and the Luffy promo is awesome. And with this, it's got the marching band. So this was, I don't even know how this came to be, but we've had it where they've done a promotional card with the Los Angeles Dodgers. At a point, if you've not seen the card, it is quite something. And within the One Piece world, for anybody that doesn't really get this, basically the guy is very stretchy, Luffy. And so this is kind of a play on the fact that he's stretchy, and so when he throws the ball, okay, we don't need the explanation, but previously, and the current prices of this, because this dropped last year, in the middle of it, $1,749. Okay, so that's for the LA Dodgers one, which coincidentally just won the World Series in baseball, and this is the Borussia Dortmund one. Now, maybe a little bit different because this is on soccer. Maybe it doesn't have as many eyes on it as the LA Dodgers, or maybe people don't like the art as much. But that one was going for $850. So when we look at this one that we just showed, let me go back to it to be able to show it off a little bit better. Okay, what are these prices going to go for? Take a listen to this.
One Piece is giving away free promo cards at specific college basketball games, and they're reselling for over $600 now. One single guy was able to get over 300 of them at the very first event. He's in the Resale Calendar Discord, and he was able to get them at $50 a pop outside the event. He's looking at a $150,000 profit already. As of just a few minutes ago, he cashed out $60,000 already for 153 of them. The rest, they're going on eBay where they are flying. This was him before, and this is him now. One Piece is giving away...
This is him before, this is him after. How unreal is that? So you look at that and say, okay. And then it truly gets spectacular when you see just the chaos. Because think about it. There's people that are fully aware of how much these are going to be worth. And then there's people that are going to simply enjoy a basketball game and call it a day. So if you walk in and get a free giveaway of sorts, and somebody's offering you a bag of cash, well, I mean, there's going to be people that fall for it.
You want to get kicked out? Get out. 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 14. Get out. Out. No, you're with them. Go. Clear out!
Imagine going to a game and walking away with not only your tickets paid for, but probably a little bit of dinner, drinks, whatever you want to do. So That's your update on what happened at Rutgers. If you've not seen, and the video clip a second ago said that they're going to be at multiple games. So do we see that happen even more? Are these going to be even scarcer because now there's footage and people in the security teams now realize, hey, there's going to be a lot of people that are trying to resell and we want to, or sorry, I should say that are purchasing off of other people. And I guess they just don't want that to happen in general. But what an experience. And that also shows, too, what the kind of hype around One Piece. Now, at the card show that I went to, there was maybe 2 to 3 tables out of, I'd call it maybe 25-ish, that had a singular row in a case. Now, was the case massive? Maybe parts of it, but it seemed like they were kind of like segregated in a side. And I want to say that it was almost 95% Pokemon at the card show. And again, this was a smaller vendor show when I talked with them, because I have a whole bunch of interviews and I think you guys are going to love seeing all of these. But they, like, half of them were just personal collectors that decided they were going to go to a show to be able to vend. So, Rudy Gobert, if you've not seen, here's a little bit of a Pokemon segment from the Minnesota Timberwolves. And again, everybody's jumping on board.
And I give you a bunch of different types. You give me one of those Pokemon from that type you see on the screen. And just so let's do it. Start.
I go with Squirtle.
Like last ones?
Yeah, I like that. I go with, I know the Pokemon's in the franchise. I go with Gyarados.
Gyarados.
Yeah, 2 water, some balance.
The question here is, would he really be familiar with every single one of these names? The first 2, okay, I feel like they were pretty well known. These 3, I mean, we're talking super fan, or they were like, hey, here's the names ahead of time.
I go with Scout. I go with Beckett. Oh yeah. I go with Beckett. Oh, legendary. My favorite is Lugia, but since we already have 2 water types, we gotta have some balance. So I know it's Zapdos.
So what do we think? What do we think of that? I mean, connects with a ton of people within the crowd. I mean, I'm trying to think of going to sporting events and what they talk about. I feel like it's favorite food of sorts, or like favorite restaurant within town. So I do like the creativeness around that, and I think ultimately that's kind of cool. And is this cool, or is this like too mainstream? The Pentagon just installed a Pokemon card vending machine in its main food court. It also sells CGC graded cards and jerseys. This might be the craziest vending machine location ever. Everybody's into trading cards. Why not make the most of it? And Leah showed Guitar Hero 3. And looking at the game case, instant hit of nostalgia. And then you go to the bottom, and everyone either left no stickers on it, put every sticker on it, or was extraordinarily meticulous in each way that they pressed on that sticker. And I think they were joking, but they were like, oh, I think I found my my original Guitar Hero from back in the day. And that would be quite the nostalgia kick. Now, Chris Hoge here found or made a statement that I feel is unreal, but I think it's legit. I really think that it's legit. He says there are 14 Michael Jordan 1-of-1s from the 90s that have yet to surface. They can be found in the following products: Row 3, 98 Greats, Extreme, Game Dated, and the other 10 and the UD Series 2. I'm not going to read like all those specific ones. If you want a screenshot, feel free. But can you imagine? You buy a case of some, and they still have the one of ones, which we've had the argument before between a lot of other TCGs that don't have any sort of one of ones. Does those still being in the case add that much extra value to potentially the people that are trying to resell? And I want to give a shout out to Haley here. This came across my timeline where they just did like art on their binder, and I was like, damn, that looks absolutely fire. Leaf cards are incredibly undervalued and slept on because of the non-license, and will continue to gain respect, legitimacy, attention, and value over time because of how amazing their product is. So Leaf Trading Cards, I was actually able to do an interview with CJ Breen, who is their director of marketing, which if you want to listen to the RWA Segments podcast for that, the link will be down in the description below here on YouTube once the stream is done. If you follow me on X or if you want to search up RWA Segments. But during that card show, there was a guy that was there representing one of the lacrosse teams. And he had a couple of lacrosse cards on his table. And I was like, hey, you want to do a little bit of an interview and tell me what you got on here? And he starts going on and on and on about how all the cards on his table were Leaf cards. I was like, I interviewed that guy a couple weeks ago. That's insane. He's like, yeah, the set's pretty much sold out. I don't know. Didn't really know what to think when the lacrosse came through, and the fact that it's an official license, because if you remember Johnny just a second ago saying, hey, they're getting slept on because they don't have that license. Well, for certain leagues, they do, right? Like they have Power Slap, which if you've seen probably just like the clips of it, I don't know how many people like sit through an entire event of people slapping each other, but you've probably seen the clips. So apparently they have trading cards for that and a bunch of other niche type things like lacrosse, and those ones are officially branded. So it is something to kind of question on that front of what exactly does it look like a little bit down the road if people are more open to that aspect of, not having it with the official logos. The Clone Wars Xbox game is underrated. This is me and my take. Because somebody was like, is this here? Yeah. That Battlefront 2 and Lego Star Wars were the best Star Wars games. And I remember growing up playing this game nonstop with friends. Nonstop. Probably most played video game outside of one of the NHL games. Highly underrated. Highly underrated. This one's going to be a doozy. We need to set this one up on a good time. So Ken Goldin, are you familiar with Ken Goldin? He's been doing the Netflix series of King of Collectibles, the whole Logan Paul thing with the Pikachu Illustrator card. There's somebody that is really pushing the narrative around collectibles. And all of a sudden, on my timeline, there is a response from him talking about digital collectibles. And it's like, oh my God. So somebody asks, hey, Ken Goldin, when's the first digital collectible auction? How much do you see this going for? And it's a hashtag of VeVe. If you don't know what VeVe is, it's a platform that has a multitude of very recognizable and notable IP, like Spider-Man. Except you can't really take it off the platform, so it's in like a secluded way, per se, where we've seen with the likes of Candy Digital, with the Futureverse receivership, they're kind of just at a halt. So it's a huge risk with it. Until these assets can be moved off of it willy-nilly, then things change. So you scroll down, and Bobby says when they can be taken off platform. And Ken Goldin responds, correct. That's a spicy meatball. And this is the ice cream we keep talking about. Apparently it's low calorie. You get like twice as much from buying it at the store. The thing itself costs like $299. I don't understand what ingredients or what you're supposed to put into it, but all of that looks absolutely delicious. So if anybody has one of the Ninja Creamy ice cream makers, or you want to go halvesies on it, let's do it. I'm down. New player record. Look at this. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. $432,000. What are people doing that they have $432,000 to be able to buy a card? It's ridiculous. It's genuinely ridiculous. So we see this, and then you go on the timeline and you see people that are making statements about, oh, the entire collectibles industry is going to 10x. We're in a super cycle, and there's all these different, hype things around that. Where obviously we're seeing precious metals go crazy. Apparently they actually like crashed a little bit today and it was like the amount they crashed was the entirety of like Bitcoin's market cap, which I think is hilarious how all that stuff works. But when you go to these shows, and that's another thing. There was a guy that had almost exclusively higher end stuff and very, very cool to talk to. But I was like, these people are working with like insane dollar amounts. And it's all based off these cards. And I also couldn't imagine what it's like to carry in these like massive cases in and out of these events. Sounds like a complete nightmare. And so sometimes instead of carrying things in and out, you just try to dump it all in one go. And that is what we saw on the likes of the Rockies. In line an hour early for the garage sale, not even first, guy ahead of me flew in from Arizona specifically to come here and has been waiting by the gate in 12-degree weather for nearly 2 hours. So there's a card show and then a garage sale of stuff for the Colorado Rockies. And if you were going to guess what they have in the sale, just try to think for half a second before we click over. Well, somebody bought the garbage cans for $25. This guy's crazy. People looked at me like I was crazy carrying it out of the stadium, but thrilled to have purchased a Rockies trash can at the garage sale. Can honestly say this is one item I didn't have in my collection, and I love it. I try to get something unique every year. So it's an event they do every year when they just sell stuff they don't want. That is unreal. And here's like another example of it. So the scoreboard with teams, you can buy for $400. You can buy the bump box for $400. Is everything $400? That one doesn't have a price on it. And then out of town scoreboard teams, $100. New York Yankees. I don't know. The trash can, maybe. It feels like those are way too big unless you own a business that's sort of like outside where you could use trash bins and you want to have people, connect with something and it's cool, even though theoretically you could just try to print a big ass sticker and, and then throw it on there. And more big sales around the VeeFriends universe. We haven't really talked VeeFriends too often, to be totally honest, but the first VeeFriends graded in a CGC 10 sold for $10,000. They had it listed for $25,000, but I guess they took, what is that, more than 50% off at 10%. Okay. This was the craziest thing. And if you have Netflix or if you don't have Netflix, find a Netflix account, go on YouTube, whatever you got to do. Type in Alex Honnold. He climbed a building in Taipei, and it is by far the most vomit-inducing, nauseating experience you'll watch in an hour and 31 minutes. Truly spectacular feat amongst it. And this is like an example. He's up in the sky, okay? Like, we are in the skyscraper zone. He has his legs wrapped around some poles, and he's reached around to re-chalk his hands. My God. Terrifying.
Being up there. Oh, no.
He's like showing off while doing that. Can you imagine? And the other kind of funny part with that aspect is just everybody was ripping on the commentator, being like, you ruined every moment. Why are you doing interviews? This and that. We could have enjoyed it in silence. Kind of agree with it. And somebody pulled out a Beckett magazine from 2002 to show off some of the card prices from back in the day. Wild. When you go to a store now, how much you have to pay versus what a 36 pack of sealed boxes used to cost is $60. Now it's half that, even less. Surreal. And look, this is one that you got to pause and look at. So Kobe Bryant. This is the Fan magazine. The headline, is this kid really ready for the pros? So why you got to be a headline merchant? Because that's all people look at and that's all people remember. But somebody got it in a 6.5 PSA, and that's truly spectacular. So I wanted to end things briefly with bringing up a clip from Derek Snook, who is one of the big players within the Candy Digital situation. And if you don't know what Candy Digital is, it is a platform similar to VeVe where they had a bunch of IPs. So the DC Comics and the universe around there, they had Netflix with some Stranger Things cards at a point. They had some WWE cards. Again, these are all digital only, but Major League Baseball, they had a whopping collection, and it really was probably the mainstay of the entire platform, and they're completely stuck right now because it's within the Futureverse receivership. So traditionally, you're able to buy something, sell something, get funds out. All of that is on pause. Here's quick takes on it.
Haven't been on in a minute. Couple of reasons why. One is I've been traveling. There's a big city out there. I can't see it very well, but it's big. Also, been in Patagonia. I've been hiking. And then obviously, there's the obvious. There's not much happening with candy. People are angry. People are sad. People are very, very frustrated. Some of the haters are probably pretty glad. I think there's stuff going on behind the scenes, and things are moving ish. The candy, as I understand it, is under ownership of Futureverse. It was not in the receivership. It is still owned by Futureverse with everything that's out there in the open and public. And they just sold their other assets November 30th, right? That was in the receivership. So now would be the timeline where they're trying to deal with candy. If you're not aware, the marketplace is not working. There are major issues.
And just to clarify, because I feel like I didn't really do a good job of selling it, like people have spent thousands upon thousands of dollars. Derek in particular has got one of the craziest Otani collections where we did an interview with them and he was several $1,000s on multiple different Otani cards.
With withdrawals, there's people that have not been able to get their money for like 4 months, 3 months, 2 months. I don't know if it's been 4, but it's definitely been like 2, 3. So there's major problems, major issues. But at the same time, you know, this is not financial or legal advice or anything like that. This is just a perspective. If they sold all their assets November 30th, now is kind of the time that they are working and should be working on candy and figuring out what to do with it. And given the amount of time that, you know, conversations and legal, and I'd imagine that their board members are spread across at least 2 continents. You know, all this takes time, and then we had the holidays. So there's a lot of moving pieces still. People's emotions are all over the place. Some people are starting to, you know, consider, well, no, they are, I would say some people are taking legal action. I'm not one of them. But that's what's been going on in the world of candy. And, you know, there's not a lot to talk about because of that.
Yeah. Oh, boy. One of the craziest stories. Again, Futureverse announced partnerships with FC Barcelona to do some digital collectibles through them. They had the PFL, the Premier Fighters League, that was joined on. A whole bunch of other things, including recently acquiring Candy Digital to then have all their funding yanked. Nobody knows what's going on. They go into receivership. They're selling chairs, posters, computers out of their office. Oi, 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 oi. Craziness. All right, that's it for this edition of XFeed. Again, reminder, if you're wanting more from the podcast, that the link is going to be in the description below. And of course, we got the card show shenanigans going to come to you soon. Hope you guys have a phenomenal rest of your night if you're watching this on the same time. And I will catch you tomorrow. Okay, peace.